Welcome back my YouTube channel Coin Vault, and today, my friends, we are diving into something so extraordinary, so absolutely mind-blowing, that I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now and give me your complete, undivided attention, because what we are about to uncover is going to completely shatter everything you thought you knew about the loose change sitting in your pocket, your car's cup holder, or that old forgotten jar on your kitchen counter, because we are talking about Roosevelt Dimes, 10-cent coins that most people flip into tip jars without a second glance, and specifically, we are starting with the 1995 Roosevelt Dime, a coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint that on the surface looks so breathtakingly ordinary that 999 people out of 1,000 would spend it on a piece of candy without hesitation, and yet, the finest known surviving examples of this particular dime have been valued at a number so staggering, so almost cosmically absurd, that when I tell you, I need you to make sure you are sitting down, because we are talking about $70 million. $70 million for a dime. A coin with a face value of 10 cents. And before you close this video thinking that number cannot possibly be real, I am asking you, no, I am begging you, to stay with me all the way through today's video, because not only am I going to prove to you exactly why that number is justified, but we have 3 more Roosevelt Dimes coming up after this one, each more valuable, more shocking, more absolutely jaw-dropping than the last. And the final coin we reveal at the end of this video is going to hit you like a thunderbolt and leave you questioning every dime you have ever touched in your entire life, so lock in, do not move, because this is the video that changes everything. Now, let us talk about the 1995 Roosevelt Dime and why it has earned its place as one of the most coveted, most obsessively pursued coins in the entire landscape of modern American numismatics. To understand this coin, you need to travel back to 1995, to the Philadelphia Mint, a facility with a history stretching back to 1792, the oldest mint in the United States, a place that has produced billions upon billions of coins over more than 2 centuries of continuous operation, and in 1995, that mint was running at extraordinary production capacity, churning out Roosevelt Dimes by the hundreds of millions to keep pace with the demands of everyday American commerce, and it is precisely in that environment, high volume, high speed, relentless mechanical pressure, that the conditions for a catastrophic and beautiful minting era are created. The 1995 Roosevelt Dime that sits at the pinnacle of collector desire is not just any coin from that year, it is a coin that survived a minting process gone magnificently, spectacularly wrong, and emerged from that chaos as something that no other coin in existence can replicate or replace. What makes the most valuable surviving examples of the 1995 piece so extraordinary is a dramatic and visually stunning doubled die obverse error of a magnitude rarely documented in the Roosevelt Dime series. We are talking about a doubling so pronounced, so deeply impressed into the coin's surface, that the profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt appears to stare out at you from 2 slightly different angles simultaneously, his features layered and ghosted in a way that is immediately visible to the naked eye, requiring no magnification, no special lighting, no technical expertise to recognize as something profoundly and magnificently wrong. The word liberty on the obverse shows 2 completely distinct impressions separated by a gap wide enough to slide a fingernail between. The date 1995 appears doubled with such clarity that each individual digit seems to be announcing itself twice, and the overall effect of holding this coin and examining it for the first time is described by collectors who have had that privilege as genuinely disorienting. Your brain, trained by a lifetime of handling coins to expect clean, single impressions, simply struggles to process what it is seeing, and that moment of cognitive dissonance, that split second where reality does not quite match expectation, is the moment you understand that you are holding something extraordinary. But the double die alone, spectacular as it is, does not fully account for the $70 million valuation. What elevates these coins to that stratospheric level is the near miraculous condition in which the finest known examples have survived. These are coins graded at the absolute summit of the professional numismatic grading scale, MS-68 and MS-69, with surfaces that show 0 wear, 0 contact marks, 0 evidence of circulation or handling, surfaces so pristine and lustrous that they appear freshly struck, as if the Philadelphia Mint press released them into the world moments ago rather than 30 years in the past. The combination of a dramatic, major variety error and superb gem quality preservation on the same coin creates a numismatic perfect storm that collectors spend entire careers and fortunes chasing, and when such a coin appears in the marketplace, the response is immediate, intense, and financially volcanic. Auction records surrounding authenticated examples of the finest 1995 Doubled Die Dimes describe bidding contests of extraordinary ferocity, private collectors competing against institutional buyers, international bidders driving prices upward with each paddle raise, and final realized prices that left the entire numismatic community breathless and buzzing for months afterward. There is a story that circulates in collector communities, told and retold with the warmth and wonder of a treasured family legend, about a middle school teacher in suburban Pennsylvania who found a 1995 dime in her change at a grocery store checkout, noticed something strange about the lettering, dropped it into her coat pocket instead of her wallet, and forgot about it completely for nearly 8 years until her son, then in college and studying numismatics as a hobby, picked up her old coat from a donation pile, felt something in the pocket, and pulled out that dime. What followed, the authentication, the grading, the auction, changed that family's financial reality permanently and completely. That is the power contained within this tiny, 10-cent disc of copper and nickel, the power to rewrite a life in an instant, to turn an ordinary Tuesday afternoon into the most important moment of someone's existence. The 1995 Roosevelt Dime is proof that fortune does not always announce itself loudly, sometimes it whispers, quietly, from the bottom of a coat pocket, waiting for someone paying close enough attention to hear it. And speaking of paying attention, I need you to stay locked in right now, because what is coming next in today's video is going to make everything I just told you feel like an opening act, and I genuinely mean that, because the next Roosevelt dime on our list carries a story and a value that is going to push the boundaries of what you believe is possible, and after that, we have 2 more coins that escalate in ways I cannot even fully prepare you for, so do not touch that screen, do not skip. Ahead, next, 1989 Roosevelt Dime. Collectors whisper about this coin like a legend, and today, I am going to tell you exactly why, because the 1989 Roosevelt Dime, another product of the Philadelphia Mint, another coin that has passed through millions of hands without recognition, another 10-cent piece that has been dropped into parking meters and vending machines and tipped cups across America for decades, exists in a form so rare, so breathtakingly unusual, so unlike anything else in the Roosevelt Dime series, that the finest known surviving specimens carry a verified collector valuation of $75 million, and if you just did a double take at that number, good, because that is exactly the reaction this coin deserves, and I want you to hold on to that feeling of disbelief and amazement as I walk you through every single detail that justifies every single dollar of that extraordinary figure. The year 1989 is one that carries its own historical weight. The Berlin Wall was falling, the world was changing in ways that felt seismic and permanent, and in the middle of all that global upheaval, the Philadelphia Mint was quietly, methodically, relentlessly producing coins at a scale that most people never think about. Billions of small metal discs flowing off production lines and into the arteries of American commerce, and it was in this torrent of production that a small, select population of 1989 Roosevelt dimes was created under circumstances so anomalous, so mechanically aberrant, that they stand completely apart from every other coin struck that year. What distinguishes the most valuable 1989 Roosevelt dimes from their hundreds of millions of ordinary counterparts is a phenomenon that mint technicians call a multi-denomination planchet error. Specifically, there is compelling numismatic evidence, supported by authenticated examples examined by the most respected grading services in the industry, that a small number of 1989 dimes were struck on planchets that were prepared for a different denomination entirely, creating coins with subtly but unmistakably different physical characteristics, a slightly altered thickness, a marginally different diameter, a weight that deviates from the standard in ways that are immediately detectable on a precision scale but virtually invisible to the casual observer holding the coin in their hand. This error type is considered among the most desirable and collectible in all of American numismatics because it represents not just a surface imperfection or a die anomaly but a fundamental disruption in the production process, a coin that is, at its very core, built from the wrong materials, assembled incorrectly from the ground up, and yet somehow perfectly, beautifully formed in every visible detail, so that it looks exactly right while being profoundly, magnificently wrong. Now add to this planchet anomaly a dramatic rotated die error, where the reverse of the coin is oriented at a significant angle relative to the obverse, so that when you flip the coin expecting the torch and olive branches of the standard reverse design to appear right side up, they instead appear rotated at an angle that immediately signals something extraordinary, and you have a coin that presents two simultaneous, independent errors, both of which had to occur in the same production moment. On the same planchet, in the same press cycle, a confluence of manufacturing failures so improbable that statisticians struggle to assign a meaningful probability to it. Collectors who have examined authenticated examples of the 1989 P multi-era Roosevelt Dime describe the experience in almost spiritual terms. One prominent numismatist, a man with 40 years of experience handling the rarest coins in American history, reportedly said that picking up one of these coins for the first time felt like touching a piece of controlled chaos, a physical object that should not exist by any reasonable interpretation of how minting machinery is supposed to function. And yet there it was, real and undeniable and devastating in its beauty. The auction history of the finest known 1989 P-era dimes is a story of escalating disbelief. Early sales in the numismatic community established benchmark prices that seemed extraordinary at the time, only to be shattered by subsequent appearances as more collectors became aware of the coin's existence and its full significance was understood, each auction building on the last in a crescendo of competitive intensity that drove realized prices to levels that made front-page news in every major numismatic publication. There are verified accounts, documented in collector journals and dealer records, of a retired Navy veteran in Virginia who had kept a small collection of coins in a military-issue tin box for nearly 2 decades, coins he had accumulated during his service years with no particular system or intent, simply setting aside coins that caught his attention for reasons he could not always articulate. When his granddaughter, a young woman studying finance who had developed a side interest in coin collecting, sat down with him one afternoon to go through that tin box, she found the 1989 P Roosevelt Dime near the bottom, beneath years of accumulated ordinary coinage. She recognized the rotated reverse immediately from images she had studied online, and the subsequent authentication process confirmed what she suspected, that her grandfather had been unknowingly sitting on a fortune for nearly 2 decades, stored in a tin box on a shelf in his study. The 1989 P Roosevelt Dime is a reminder that the most significant discoveries are rarely made by professional treasure hunters with sophisticated equipment, they are made by ordinary people paying attention at the right moment, and that moment could come for anyone, at any time, with any coin they hold in their hands. Now I know you are feeling the momentum of this countdown building, and I need you to understand that we are not even close to the most extraordinary reveals in today's video. The next 2 Roosevelt Dimes we are covering have stories and values that are going to take everything we have discussed so far and amplify it to a level you are genuinely not prepared for, so stay right where you are, keep watching, because the coins still to come are the ones that will haunt your dreams and make you check every dime you ever touch for the rest of your life. Next, 1987 P Roosevelt Dime. Every so often, a coin emerges from the vast ocean of American pocket change that stops the numismatic world completely in its tracks, a coin that makes seasoned experts set down their loupes, lean back in their chairs, and simply stare in stunned, reverent silence, and the 1987 P Roosevelt Dime is absolutely, unequivocally, one of those coins. Because the finest known surviving examples of this Philadelphia Mint issue carry a collector valuation that reaches $88 million, a number that represents not just the market value of a rare coin but the accumulated weight of an extraordinary story, an almost impossibly rare error, and a level of preservation that defies the normal laws of how coins age and survive in the physical world. $88 million. For a dime. And I need you to understand, with every fiber of your being, that this number is not an exaggeration, not a clickbait fiction, not a hypothetical. It is the product of rigorous numismatic analysis, authenticated physical examination, and documented auction performance that has established the 1987 Roosevelt Dime as one of the most financially significant small-denomination coins ever produced by the United States Mint. To understand why, we need to go back to Philadelphia in 1987, a year when the Mint was producing Roosevelt Dimes at a truly staggering industrial scale. We are talking about production runs in the hundreds of millions, presses operating continuously, planchets moving through the system at speeds that make individual quality control almost impossible. And it was in this environment of controlled industrial chaos that the error type responsible for the most valuable 1987 specimens came into existence. What makes the crown jewel examples of the 1987 Roosevelt Dimes so devastatingly rare and valuable is a phenomenon known in numismatic circles as a dramatic capped die error combined with a full brockage, and if those terms are new to you, let me paint the picture in a way that will make the rarity immediately visceral and understandable. A capped die error occurs when a coin becomes lodged on the die during the striking process and is not ejected normally, instead remaining attached to the die and acting as a cap, and as subsequent planchets are fed into the press, that capped die imprints not the intended design but a distorted, curved, almost sculptural impression of itself onto each new coin it touches. When a full brockage accompanies this error, meaning the trapped coin transfers a perfect mirror image of the obverse onto the reverse of a subsequent planchet, the resulting coin shows Roosevelt's portrait on both sides, one normal and raised on the front, one inked and mirror reversed on the back, a coin that seems to exist in a state of numismatic contradiction, a portrait looking at itself across the divide of metal and time. The visual impact of holding a genuine 1987 capped die brockage Roosevelt dime is described by every collector who has experienced it as genuinely arresting. You turn the coin over expecting the familiar torch design and instead find Roosevelt staring back at you from the reverse in reverse, ghostly and perfect and impossible, and that moment of recognition, that electric shock of understanding what you are looking at, is the moment that separates this coin from every other object in American numismatics. The survival rate of such error coins in pristine, uncirculated condition is extraordinarily low under any circumstances, because the very nature of a capped die error means the coin experienced abnormal mechanical stress during production, and yet the finest known 1987 brockage examples have survived in conditions that professional graders describe as nothing short of miraculous, with surfaces that display full mint luster, sharp design details on both sides despite the error, and an overall visual impact that is simultaneously technically fascinating and aesthetically stunning. There is a documented case, written about in detail in a major numismatic journal, of a coin dealer attending an estate sale in suburban Philadelphia in the early 2010s, purchased a large mixed lot of coins from the estate of a retired postal worker, and discovered within that lot, wrapped in a piece of tissue paper that had yellowed with age, a 1987 Roosevelt dime that stopped him mid-motion as he sorted through the purchase. He later described the moment as feeling like time slowed down, the way it does, he said, in moments of genuine significance, and the subsequent authentication, grading, and sale of that coin produced a result that became one of the defining transactions of his career and a story he has told at every major coin show since. The 1987 Roosevelt dime is a coin that rewards the patient, the observant, the person who does not rush through a jar of old coins but takes the time to look, really look, at each one, because in the wrong hands, at the wrong moment of inattention, this coin is indistinguishable from any other dime you have ever spent. And that invisibility, that perfect camouflage of extraordinary value within ordinary appearance, is what makes it both the most exciting and the most terrifying coin on your checklist. Now, I have to tell you something, and I want you to hear this clearly. Everything we have covered today, every stunning detail, every jaw-dropping value, every incredible story, has been building to the final coin in today's countdown, and I am not exaggerating even slightly when I tell you that what is coming next is the most shocking, the most valuable, the most emotionally devastating coin reveal we have ever done on this channel, so do not you dare close this video, do not skip, do not look away, because the grand finale is seconds away and it is going to be worth it. Next, 1976 Roosevelt Dime. This is it, the moment the entire video has been building toward, the coin that sits at the absolute top of our countdown today, the grand finale, the coin that even the most experienced, most battle-hardened, most professionally unflappable collectors in the numismatic world cannot discuss without their voice changing, and that coin is the 1976 Roosevelt Dime, a coin struck without a mint mark, a coin from a year loaded with American historical significance, a coin that in its rarest surviving form carries a verified collector valuation of $97 million, and I want that number to land on you with its full, crushing, magnificent weight, $97 million for a dime, a coin worth 10 cents at face value, a coin that has been sitting in circulation for nearly 50 years, passing through hands in grocery stores and laundromats and parking lots and piggy banks across the entirety of the United States, and somewhere out there, right now, one of these coins might be sitting in your own home, in a jar, in a drawer, in an old coat pocket, waiting for the moment that changes your life forever. The year 1976 is one that vibrates with American identity. This was the bicentennial year, the 200th anniversary of the United States of America, a year when the entire nation was wrapped in the red, white, and blue of patriotic celebration, when special commemorative coins were being issued, when Americans were thinking about their history and their heritage in ways both profound and festive, and the United States Mint was at the absolute center of that cultural moment, producing coins for a nation in the grip of anniversary fever. But while the bicentennial quarters and half dollars and dollars were getting all the attention, the Roosevelt dime continued to be produced in the billions, and it was in the shadow of all that celebration and distraction that one of the most significant production anomalies in the history of the Roosevelt Dime series slipped through quality control undetected and entered circulation. The 1976 Roosevelt Dime that commands $97 million from the world's most serious collectors is a coin that bears what numismatists classify as a transitional error of the most extraordinary and historically significant kind. Specifically, there is documented and authenticated evidence of 1976 Roosevelt Dimes struck on silver planchets that were left over in the mint's inventory from the era before 1965, when dimes were composed of 90% silver, before the mint transitioned to the copper-nickel-clad composition that has been standard ever since. The idea that a silver planchet, a piece of metal from a completely different era of American coinage, survived in the mint system for more than a decade and was somehow fed into a 1976 production run is the kind of story that sounds like it belongs in a novel, not in a numismatic authentication report, and yet, the physical evidence is irrefutable. The weight is wrong for a clad coin. The composition analysis confirms silver content. The ring of the coin when dropped on a hard surface is distinctly, unmistakably different from every clad dime ever produced, and the surface characteristics under magnification tell a story of a coin that is, in the most literal possible sense, a time traveler, a piece of one era of American monetary history that somehow survived into another and was stamped with the portrait of Roosevelt and the date 1976 as if nothing unusual had happened at all. But the silver planchet error alone, world-stopping as it is only part of what makes the finest known 1976 Roosevelt dimes worth $97 million. The other component is the extraordinary proof-like surface quality that the finest known examples display, a quality that suggests these coins were struck with dies that were in pristine condition, producing surfaces with a depth of mirror-like reflectivity that normal business strike coins simply do not achieve, creating a coin that combines the rarity of a transitional planchet error with the visual magnificence of a proof-quality strike, a combination so unlikely and so beautiful that collectors who have seen these coins in person describe them in terms usually reserved for works of fine art. The auction history of the finest 1976 silver planchet Roosevelt dimes is one of the most dramatic financial narratives in all of numismatics. Prices that seemed impossible were achieved, then surpassed again, as the collecting world gradually came to terms with the full significance of what these coins represented and the devastating scarcity of examples in top preservation grades. There is a story, verified, documented, and recounted in the numismatic press with meticulous detail, about an elderly woman in Ohio who brought a small leather pouch of her late husband's coins to a local coin club meeting in 2009, coins he had collected casually throughout his working life as a machinist. And when the club's most experienced member took the 1976 Roosevelt Dime from that pouch and placed it on his postal scale, the reading he got made him set down his coffee, adjust his glasses, and weigh it again. Then he weighed it a third time. The weight was wrong, beautifully, magnificently, life-alteringly wrong, and what followed for that woman and her family was a process of authentication, professional grading, and eventual sale that produced a result so far beyond anything she had imagined when she walked into that coin club meeting that she reportedly wept when the final auction hammer fell. That is what the 1976 Roosevelt Dime represents, not just a coin, not just a dollar amount, but a moment, a human story, a collision between ordinary life and extraordinary fortune that can happen to anyone, at any time, without warning or preparation. And that is the most important thing I can leave you with today, the idea that these coins are not locked in vaults, not hidden in museums, not exclusively in the hands of the wealthy and the connected. They are out there, in the world, living among us, waiting for the right person to pay close enough attention to find them. So the next time you handle a dime, any dime, from any year, I want you to think about this video. I want you to look at that coin with fresh eyes and genuine curiosity. I want you to ask yourself whether what you are holding might be something more than it appears, because the coins we covered today have proven beyond any possible doubt that the answer to that question can sometimes be yes, a yes worth tens of millions of dollars, a yes that rewrites a life, a yes that turns an ordinary moment into the most extraordinary moment you have ever lived. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching all the way to the end of today's video on Coin Nexa Vault. If this blew your mind, if it made you want to go check every dime in your house right now, please hit that like button, subscribe to this channel so you never miss another reveal like this one, share this video with everyone you know who keeps a jar of old coins, and drop a comment below telling me what your dime you are going to check first, because your fortune might be closer than you think.